Hello, everyone. This is the Green Hydrogen Podcast, the GH2 cast. And it's a podcast dedicated to the green hydrogen ecosystem. And I am Daniel Guimarães, and this is Dene Miranda. And we are hosting today Bart Biebuyck. Did I say your name right?
Well, maybe after some practicing, maybe it gets better, but it's Biebuyck.
Biebuyck.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Biebuyck. Okay, I'll try to remember that.
Yeah.
And he's the CEO of Green Energy Park Global. He has over 20 years of experience in the green hydrogen sector. He's an innovator, a leader, and also a hub himself. He has a lot of connection from what I've read. And hello, Bart.
Hello, Daniel. Hello,
Hi.
Denner.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Could you tell a little bit and share your journey to Piauí?
Oh, my journey to
Your
Piauí.
journey. No, your journey. I mean, the whole journey in the hydrogen, green hydrogen industry.
No, so actually my journey on hydrogen started actually already quite early. I mean, when I was still in university, and that is a long time ago. But then I learned about hydrogen because I followed actually in automotive engineering education, and because all my life I was raised in a automotive area. I mean, and so when I was in university, I mean, they were talking about like the fuel of the future, and hydrogen and so on. And so I started to learn a bit about that, and I somehow, for some reason, it kind of touches me, and I said, interesting technology. And then when I graduated from university, I moved actually then to Toyota, and Toyota is actually the manufacturer that basically brought the first hydrogen car on the roads. And I was actually very lucky to be able to join Toyota and actually then to move to Japan and also to work on the hydrogen car, which is the Toyota Mirai. It's the first mass-produced hydrogen car, and Mirai means future, right? And so I worked I'm almost 7 years on that car, designing the fuel cell stack and so on, and then tested in all kind of different conditions, from up in the north at minus 20, 30 degrees, and completely up to the Alps, where we go to 2,500 meters altitude, and then go to the south, where we really have tropical temperatures and so on. So really to make sure that the hydrogen car is working in all kind of conditions. And so then I also built within Toyota the first hydrogen refueling station in Belgium, and it's more than 10 years ago. That was also a challenge because there was no regulations. I mean, when I went to the authorities asking for my permit to construct the hydrogen refueling station, everybody was looking to me like, what is hydrogen? Can you help me? So that was that was in a way, funny on one hand, but on the other hand, a challenge, because then, you had to educate also the policymakers. And then when I finished actually the Toyota, I moved to the European Commission, and I was for 7 years the head of the biggest hydrogen and fuel cell research program in the world. I mean, at that time, we financed 1,100 companies, around 360 projects we had. We spent 2.4 billion euros in all those projects. And then last year, I decided to really show the world how a hydrogen economy can be viable. Because when I was at the commission, I saw a lot of PowerPoints, really a lot of PowerPoints. I mean, every week I saw developers coming and so on and showing. But we didn't see a lot of really projects getting to a final investment decision. And the beauty is that, of course, I have financed so many different projects. I saw all those technologies. And then I said, okay, now it's time to show to the world how we're going to get there. Because hydrogen will be part of the energy mix to reach to net zero in 2050 in order to save the climate. We all have agreed to the Paris targets for the climate. So this 1.5 degrees. So if we want to get there, we will need to start working very hard and building hydrogen projects. So, and this is what I wanted to show, is actually the hydrogen economy can be realistic and can be viable. And so this is what I did with my team. So I now brought her next to me. I would say I call it my Top Gun team. So I have 3 fantastic people next to me who are part of the company, the Green Energy Park. One is an engineer, has an engineering company. I think they're working around 350 engineers there. But those engineers are really the best of the best in a very, very, very specific domain, like process engineering or tank engineering, pipe engineering, electrical engineering. So, but really dedicated to gases, mainly natural gases and ammonia that they were working on. And then on the other hand, I mean, you need some expertise to build things. And so that's I found another partner who really built thousands of kilometers of pipelines, who built terminals, who has so much experience in harsh conditions as well, because he's coming from the Baltics, from the north part of Europe. So it's quite cold over there, I can tell you. So it's pretty tough to live there, but and to build those networks. And then finally, you need somebody who pays the things, you know.
Yes,
and so I found a CFO who actually is an amazing, smart guy. He actually lived in and studied basically in the US. He studied actually in Berkeley University. There he got his doctor, became doctor, and then he moved to New York, where he worked for 10 years for Morgan Stanley as an M&A. And then he moved to the city of London for 20 years. And honestly, he saw everything in the field of financing. I mean, he saw everything. But he cares now also about the climate. And he wanted to do something. He wanted to say, look, I wanted to have also some meaning in my life. And he decided to join me, and I was so happy with him. So I have actually now, I call it my A team, my Top Gun team with me, because we gonna show the world how to do it.
Wonderful. And that's the GEP Global, right? Green Energy Park.
Yeah.
So what's your business model? As in, what's your master plan? What do you want to achieve as a business?
So what we want to achieve is, of course, we're gonna produce hydrogen and ammonia. We're gonna do this here in Brazil. In Piauí, because I'm a strong believer that in this area you have one of the best conditions in the world to produce a affordable green hydrogen and green ammonia. And the business model is then, okay, you produce it and you sell the ammonia and the hydrogen. So you sell it in Europe, because in Europe, they need a lot of energy. I mean, there's a lot of factories and they need green energy, because Europe has set very strong goals. So those goals are not easily to achieve by only generating hydrogen and ammonia in Europe. Because the biggest issue that we have in Europe is that we don't have all the renewables.
Right.
So here I would say in Brazil, it's fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, your grid is 100% green or close to 100%. In Europe, many countries are 20%, even below 20. Sometimes they have a bit 40, 50. But they are not yet where you are. And it's also funny, but if you look at Piauí, because I know that Piauí maybe a decade ago or longer, you were a little bit disappointed that you didn't have natural gas pipelines in Piauí.
Sure.
I read a little bit of your history, and I think now today this is actually your luck.
Yes.
Because of that, you have invested so much in renewable energy that today you can become actually a powerhouse of green hydrogen for the world. And so there you see it, depending how you look at things, but at that time, probably nobody was expecting what can be done today.
That's wonderful. And who do you think are the off-takers nowadays for the hydrogen? Which industry will come first in this demand for hydrogen?
There are different sectors that, of course, need hydrogen. I mean, if you look into Europe, of course, the industry is really in a big need because the European Commission has set quite strong targets by 2030. So, for example, today in Europe, we consume around 10 million tons of hydrogen on a yearly basis. And the Commission has said that 42% by 2030 needs to be green or low carbon. That's a huge target. I mean, and we have only, let's say, 5 to 6 years now to achieve that. And we have to build the projects, we have to finance the projects and engineering the projects. And we have only 5 years. So the challenge is enormous. So the off-takers will then basically the ones that today already use the hydrogen. But there will be newcomers. I mean, a lot of industry are using natural gas. And so, yeah, they have to pay. In Europe, there's a system that if you consume natural gas, you have to pay emissions. I mean, for your emissions right. So you pay for the right to emit, you know. And so, of course, the more you emit, the more you pay.
Sure.
I mean, nobody likes to pay such things, you know. So the only solution is basically don't emit. And the way they can replace the natural gas is by hydrogen or pure electricity. But a lot of high heat required industries, they cannot work only with electricity. So they need to move to molecules. And that's why there will be an additional demand for such a high heat requirements. And for example, the steel sector is a beautiful example. We should not forget that the global CO2 emissions, 7% of that is coming from the steel industry. So they are actually the sector that has the biggest emission of CO2. So if you have to start to decarbonize and to get to your targets of Paris, you have to really work on the steel industry. I mean, and of course there are also a lot of other processes that need a lot of high heat, but the steel is definitely one that will need a lot of them. And today they are not using hydrogen, so this will be all on top of the 10 million tons that I mentioned before. So there will be a lot of demand. The thing that I see is that there will be not enough production of green hydrogen for 2030 targets.
Wow.
And that worries me somehow, because there will be a fight for the green molecule at some point. And if you think as a businessman, then you say, oh, great, because I can ask more money, can ask premiums because there will be not enough. If you look at from the climate perspective, you say, oh my God, that's very sad because we need it, you know. So it all depends again how you look at things.
It's funny because every day we listen to so many millions of euros and dollars that people are investing on the new plants, you know, here and there and all over the world. Do you think it's sustainable, all this money, or you think it's not enough, it's still not enough, and we don't have time for it? How do you see the whole, you know, investment in the run to get the green hydrogen?
No, we need massive amounts of investment, but it's not only in green hydrogen. We need in the entire renewables area, because huge investments, because we cannot produce hydrogen if we do not have renewables.
Right.
So I always say, first is renewables. We have the wind, the solar projects, hydro, whatever, but we need that, because without that we cannot create a hydrogen economy. So the investment is really huge, really huge.
Yeah.
So that's why I also decided actually last year to come and start the own company, the Green Energy Park, because investors are only coming when they see it as a viable business case. A lot of the projects today are just on PowerPoints. You don't see them really getting to the financial investment decision. Various reasons for that. This technology is still very young as well, so it's always a bit of risk taking as well. But also the business model is not yet there. A lot of these projects are really depending on subsidies exactly from governments. And with my team, I have said, look, I do not want to go for subsidies. We need to build something that can work. I mean, subsidies in the terms of your operational costs. So once you start to produce you should be able to sell on the market without having continuously going to governments, can I get some money? Yes, governments need to help you to get to the point that you can start to produce. And they can help in many ways. They can help, of course, by financial support, that you can start building and you can kick off, that you can do the engineering and whatever. But also they can support you in kind with logistics and with all this stuff. So there's a lot of things that governments can do, creating a very suitable market condition framework, regulatory framework, and so on. Because the more difficult you make the regulatory framework, the more difficult it is to make it a business case. So there's a lot of things that governments and so on can do in order to make it a viable economical case. But my key point is it has to be, the project needs to stand on itself. And this is to get to that point, you can get a lot of support. But once you start to produce, it has to be economical viable. And this is exactly what I wanted to do with my team, to make sure that we can make it economical viable. And then when this is proven and shown, of course we can copy everywhere in the world that process. And that's why we have made a very innovative, technology to get there. A very innovative business model, and so which is actually one of our IPs. And when we go to banks and show it, or investors, they look at it and they say, "Wow, we have never seen that before." Also, when I go to big companies and to their top management, they said, "Oh, you cracked the code." So together with the team, but this is what I did. I put engineers and finance people together in one room, and they could not come out the room as long as they have not found a solution. Because if you put engineers in one room, they will build something that will be beautiful. Most of the time it's a golden solution, but if you put financing in the room, they will look for always look for the maximum profit. When you put them together in the room, you get something beautiful, and that actually might work. And this is what we did.
And I think that inside that equation, you have Piauí, right? It is it is the place.
Look, exactly. Why Piauí? Maybe this is a really important, or let's say also why Northeast a region, but Piauí in particular. So I traveled the world. When I left the commission last May, I traveled the world. I went to Canada. I went to the US. I traveled also to India. A lot of meetings with people in Africa, in order to understand where is now one of the best places to produce the hydrogen. And I created for myself actually a huge list of kind of checking points. And wherever I went, there was always somewhere a point or 2 points. I said, it's good, but this point or that point is just not good enough, to make it. But when I came to Piauí, actually Piauí was introduced by a friend of mine, which is Patrick, and he said, "Oh, Bart, I'm doing something for the government of Piauí. You should have a look at that." And I said, "Yeah, okay. Piauí, what? Because I didn't know Piauí. I had never heard about Piauí. But he said, it's interesting. You should have a look, and please tell me your opinion." And so I had a look into it, and I said, "Oh." And I took my paper again with all my check boxes, and he's like, "Oh, check. I said, "But where is the but?" There's no but. So I said, "Oh, this is really, really a good place to start to produce here." And this is exactly in a young economy, or in a very young in a young technology, young economical market. All the things have to be right. Once things are more mature, maybe here and then you can say, okay, it's maybe not the best condition, but it might still work. But in today's situation where we are with hydrogen, the market is still very, very young, and everything needs to be right. And this is why in Piauí, I found that all the things are right. Plus, on top, let's be very honest, also you have a fantastic governor here, who is really also convinced about hydrogen is one solution of, let's say, for the climate. And I think this also helps, because it's not only about having all the right conditions, but you also need to have one of the checking boxes as well. You need to have good government who understands the challenge and is really supporting you in getting there, that you have the same agenda. And this is what I also found very nice and positive here in Piauí.
Okay, I would like to come back to the economic viability of the green hydrogen and about cost competitiveness of the renewable hydrogen, green hydrogen. When will it change? The value of the green hydrogen will be equivalent to the fossil.
Well, I believe that.
And what are the targets also, the price today and what you want to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, what you have here, I believe that in Piauí, we will be able to be cost competitive with fossil fuel. Absolutely. Of course, let's see next year when you interview me again. But my calculations, my models that I run, sees that there is a possibility.
What are the targets? What's the price today and the targets? 1 year from now, we can talk about again.
Yeah. Maybe I will tell them later these targets. This is still a bit of a secret. But let's say, I mean, a fossil fuel, hydrogen is costing €1 per kilo, €1.50 per kilo. So we need to get there. This is clear. We are not yet there today. That I can tell you as well.
Do you have a time for that? Like, are you talking about 5 years, 6 years?
I mean, again, from which angle do you look at? If you look at from the climate, we should have it today.
Yes.
But I think
market.
realistically, the technology will still improve. Still, more renewables will be built. They will become cheaper still, the renewables. So it's a journey, but I believe in 5 years' time. By 2030, I believe that completely be fossil fuel parity is actually possible to achieve. And we have no option. We have to get there. And we have to work all together to get there as well.
And you know what's most beautiful about all this, Bart? It is you are combining not only this huge investment and actually saving the planet from a climate perspective, but you're also bringing this to a state that on the Brazilian level was always a laggard, and now it is on the forefront of things. And I know that people are like, why? But where is that coming from? And I think that makes the project even more beautiful.
Absolutely, because at the end we're going to create quite a lot of jobs here. Some direct and indirect jobs we believe if everything is built by 2035, around 10,000 jobs probably will be created here. That's a lot. And it's not only cheap labor jobs, but these are really engineering jobs, specialized technician. Also technicians, but technicians with very good skills, So these are really good jobs. This is important, and I believe that also here in Piauí we can find those people. Of course, we will have to train a lot of people still. There will be some education courses necessary for sure. Speaking English is also, I would say, definitely important because, look, if Brazil wants to become a global power house for green hydrogen, the world's, everybody speaks English in the world, so English will become important at some point, definitely for management jobs and so on. I don't say that every technician will have to speak it, but at least I think this will be required.
Of course.
And I heard you're like the Hydrogen Valley godfather. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's wonderful. I heard that because can you explain a little bit, the project of the Hydrogen Valley and how it's spreading in the world and what's the project here?
So when I joined the European Commission, I was like, at that time, nobody knew about hydrogen really. Hydrogen was still far away in people's mind or on the agenda of politicians or regulators. So I said, okay, the best way actually to bring the people the awareness that hydrogen exists is to create small ecosystems and to involve like governors or cities and mayors, because governors and mayors, they are very close to their citizens. They have to, because the citizens are meeting them and they say, hey, what are you going to do to solve my climate problem? They need to bring answers. It's very different if you go on a national level or even on a European level, or because they are more far away from the people. But mayors and governors, they have to be close to people and they talk, and so they need to come with solutions. And this is how I made actually a program dedicated for mayors and governors to build ecosystems and to show to the people what hydrogen can do. Because I always say seeing is believing. So we built small hydrogen hubs, hydrogen valleys. It was not easy because I had to convince the Commission and the industry that this is the way forward. And then I took about 2 years to convince everybody. But in 2018, finally, we got our first European Hydrogen Valley being awarded in the Netherlands. In the meantime, we have 65 hydrogen valleys in Europe. But then also I said, okay, we should not have it only in Europe. We should really make it a worldwide program, because we see here in Europe that it works. We see people are engaging, they get enthusiastic and so on. So why not having it on a worldwide level? And then I came together with governments like in the US and Australia and everywhere. I mean, because we have like also a lot of bilateral meetings or group meetings on governmental, I'd say, level. And I proposed the idea. I said, why don't we all work now together and establish like hydrogen valleys? And then we had a target to build 100 hydrogen valleys worldwide by 2030.
What's the number today?
I think we got there. We got there already.
We got there already?
Yeah, much earlier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just you have the announcement in the US, the hydrogen hubs in the US. So there are, I think, 10 or something like that. So we have 65 in Europe. We have in Japan, we have there in Australia, we have even India, we have even the UAE has, they don't call it hydrogen valleys, they call it hydrogen oasis, but okay.
Wow. Makes sense.
They have to make it a
Nice.
bit, but it's fun, because you really see that this concept of bringing people together who actually never worked together. And now you bring them together and they build something for their community, for their ecosystem.
And what's the results and outcomes for the first, the valleys like in Scotland and you said in Netherlands?
So there are many results or many outcomes. I mean, of course, first, the people start to learn and experience about what hydrogen can do. It's very important because they need to back, the technology. They get experience. Give you the example of, I can talk hours about that.
Yeah,
but
we have short time, but
talk, for example, like in the Netherlands, they had to stop with the natural gas extraction because there was a lot of earthquakes.
Yeah.
And so there 20,000 people are working in natural gas. So the government decided to stop, but those people need a job, need a living, so they need to replace it with something. And so that's why the government said, okay, let's build a hydrogen valley. And you see that, nobody knew very much about hydrogen, but they all want to do it because they have to for their own life to keep. Yeah. And you see that people are really engaging. That's number one. So really you get this kind of community feeling. But secondly is also we detected a lot of regulatory, issues. Because sometimes it was so stupid things like, in the UK we had a project in the Orkney Islands, and we wanted to bring actually hydrogen from the island because there was a lot of wind and so on. We produced it on the island, and we wanted to bring it to the, on shore to the main, city. So, and we had to take a ferry. Suddenly we realized that a truck filled with hydrogen could not be on the ferry. And so they said, why? Or the hydrogen car going under the tunnel from France to the UK to drive there. Oh no, it's not possible. There's no rule. It's not because it's dangerous, but it was just there is no regulation. So nobody could say, yeah, it's okay, it's not okay. So we really, by this kind of hydrogen valleys creation, you also started to understand where are the lacking points in the regulatory framework. Also then that's also why we built in the southern part of Europe, so on the border of Italy, Slovenia, and Croatia, we built the first cross-border hydrogen valley. And the reason was exactly this. If you let hydrogen crossing the border, suddenly you come in other districts, other regulatory framework. Can we do that? Hydrogen produced in Croatia suddenly goes to Slovenia What are the issues? So we also detected there cross-border issues, because the regulation is just slightly different, even though it's Europe, which the people think it's all the same. No, I can tell you,
completely
every
different.
country is different, has their own rules, and sometimes every region. So these are all the learnings that we got. And then, of course, the technology, because if you start to invest and build the technology, you also see where it fails and where we need to do more research, where we need to do better. So these are all those learnings, and it's fantastic to see that an idea that I got back in 2016, how now that small idea become a reality, but also is actually becoming like a worldwide
trend.
way
way
to educate people and to improve the technology and to realize this hydrogen economy.
Okay, I know your time is very short. You have a meeting now. We are a little late, but I have two last questions that you can answer really quick. Yeah, what is the hottest sector for the startups in the industry now?
The
hottest? If let's put in other words. If you had 10 million euros right now, and you choose 3 startups to invest right now in the sector, in the industry,
in the hydrogen sector.
Yeah, hydrogen sector. Where would you put this money? Which companies and why? Let's say.
You want to know where to invest, in which company to invest. That's always dangerous.
This is for the community. I have questions from everybody.
I know. I mean, I do believe that investing in the technology itself, I mean, like electrolyzer technology, is really a good thing, because to reach to the 1.5 degrees target in 2050, we're gonna need to build 6,000 gigawatts of electrolyzer.
Okay.
Today we are gonna build here in Piauí close to 11 gigawatt. So this is only a fraction for what the world needs. And if you look what is the capacity, the production capacity of the electrolyzer manufacturers, maybe 5 gigawatt per year. So, and we need 6,000 in 25 years. So I think you know enough where to invest now, no?
Yeah. Okay, we leave for the next podcast, yeah. But thank you so much, Bart, to come here and share your view, your experience, and the details. Yes, and we hope to see you again and continue to grow this ecosystem, this valley here in Piauí, in Brazil, and in the world, like you said.
We have to, and I think we will bring hydrogen from Brazil to the world, but not only hydrogen, but also we're going to show in Brazil how the world can reach the climate targets. That's what we're going to do here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.